Welcome, fans, to another special episode of Rangers Ed. We're here in the off season. A little less to preview, a little more action done this time. I'm here with my co-hosts, Little Ed and Coach Ed. This is Cousin Ed. What's up, Little Ed?
I think we finally timed this episode with a lot of action going on, but knowing us, Laffy's going to sign like tonight or tomorrow morning, but we'll see.
If it doesn't get
It
off
was a nice.
sheeted.
Yeah, hopefully not. But we'll talk about that. It was a nice little week off. Glad to be back with you guys. I'm definitely excited for this episode to talk about some new players. But before we do that, I just wanted to talk about my trip down to Florida for a little bit. I went down to Disney World, which was pretty exciting. Went to the Star Wars world, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, which was very impressive, just all around incredible. I mean, I'm not a huge Star Wars fan myself. I'm trying to get into it for a little bit, but just like the way they put everything together is insane. And the one thing I cannot stress enough, if you can't afford it, I feel bad. I mean, shoot me a message. I'll Venmo you the $25 because it's worth it. You have to get the Fast Pass at Disney World.
Yeah.
Watching these people stand online while I'm just like flying by to the front, it's just like you got to get it. Like if you're paying that amount of money, I know you're paying how much you're paying for Disney World, just pay the extra 25. And like Lindsay and I kept on like adding up the time, like how much we were going to save. Like that became like the inside joke. I was like, all right, add another 60 minutes to the clock. We must have saved like 9 hours within the 2 days. Like not even
probably
kidding.
like a full day. Probably
we would have been standing online the entire day. I was like, you got to be
kidding
me.
I don't know. I don't understand. We went when you were 12, so that's 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And not everybody got the Fast Pass then. I don't understand what people don't get. I don't understand.
I don't even. They don't really promote it very well, I guess. And it was very complicated. Lindsay handled the whole thing, so I got to give her a lot of credit because it's just very confusing. You have to like wake up very early to buy it, so like you can't buy it ahead of time. You have to buy it the day of, right?
Maybe there's a limited amount.
You should have taken my ID.
You just have to wake up early, and then you have to book your rides accordingly. So like you can only book 1 or 2 rides every 2 hours or something. I have no idea. Lindsay must have explained it to me like 10 times, and I still couldn't tell you what it was. Like, but it was she had to be very strategic with it. She's like setting alarms on her phone and stuff. It was wild. But I can't stress it enough. Like I said, if you can't afford it, I apologize, but like it's well worth the money.
You guys should have used my ID and got the Florida discount.
I know. We have to, but then they check at you at the park.
Yeah, but you could have taken my ID.
Well, Lindsay didn't. I don't know. I don't know how that works exactly, but yeah, I probably could have got away with it. But they fingerprint you and everything at the park.
Wow,
it's wild. Yeah. So the first day we got fingerprinted.
Fingerprint you?
Yeah, the first day they checked our tickets on our phones. I had it on my watch, my Apple Watch, and you scan the ticket on the little thing, and then they say, "Okay, scan your finger. Is this your first day at the park?" We're like, "Yeah," and he goes, "Okay, make sure you scan the same finger every day because if you switch fingers, it won't work." I was like, "Are you kidding me?" So like, wow. I just remembered it was my left pointer or whatever because it was on my left hand. It was just like, oh my god, It was too much. But Disney World, I mean, like I said, it's well worth the money. I mean, the amount of detail they put into those parks and stuff, it's crazy. And the rides were a lot of fun. The Star Wars ride's a lot of fun. The new Avatar ride at Animal Kingdom was crazy. But I don't want to talk too much about that. We went.
I told you that ride was good. I'm glad you did it.
It was insane. It was the coolest thing.
The Avatar
probably the coolest ride I've ever been. Yeah, it was wild. But we could talk about that more on the side. Then we went over to Jacksonville for my niece, I guess, my cousin's baby, Charlotte's first birthday. So happy birthday to Charlotte Ray. And thank you very much for Suiter's Sweet Treats for supplying the cookies. They were absolutely phenomenal. The theme was Wonder the Sea. So she was able to put together a bunch of mermaids and sea turtles and seahorses and things like that. And they were just incredible. So thank you very much to Meg and Michelle over at Suiter's Sweet Treats. You can check them out on their Instagram at Suiter's Sweet Treats, and definitely check out their website, suiterssweettreats.net. Putting it up on the screen right there for you guys. So definitely check them out. Use promo code EDPOD for 10% off and that free doghouse cookie that we always talk about. Part of me today, guys, I'm going to be the fill-in producer. We didn't mention we don't have Mikey there. So
Yeah, I didn't even
Well-
get to Coach Ed yet either, though. There's just
Yeah.
so much that's been going on.
I had
It's
a
been
lot to
couple
say.
weeks.
Yeah.
No, we've had a couple weeks off. Coach Ed, you also took a little trip down to Florida. Coach actually saw me for about 5 hours during his trip. What's up,
Yeah,
Coach?
we had a nice little trip. Had a nice hotel on the beach. My sister-in-law was fortunate enough to get for us and went to get to see Pop and Graham for a couple of days, and it was very nice. And then we shot down to see you for a few hours.
Yeah, no, it was fun. It was funny because we went to Carlo and Anthony's house. So when we get there, they got a great pool, right? They don't have a float or a pool ball or anything. They don't have a single thing in the pool
To
to
do.
do.
Yeah.
So I was like, and they didn't have a speaker for outside. So I was gonna bring my Bluetooth speaker, but I was like, Carlo will have a speaker, no speaker. They were gracious hosts, of course. I love them, but so I just I went on like Instacart and I ordered a beach ball from Five Below.
No
delivered
way.
right to the house. Yeah, it was
That's
like I don't
hilarious.
remember. It was Instacart. It was one of them.
The guy
Yeah, it was
just
like
flings it over.
$10 beach ball. So now he has one there. He's got a beach
The
ball.
guy just flings it over the fence.
Yeah, throws it over. It was funny. But yeah, it was a good time. Definitely. It's always good to see Coach. But you guys got a big weekend coming up, huh?
Yeah, Coach Ed and I are hosting our annual, or I guess we took last summer off, but we're bringing it back this summer, our annual golf outing. I'm going to throw it up on Instagram tomorrow when the episode drops, or I guess today if you're listening to it. So yeah, check out the invitation. It's July 29th. It's we're going to tee off at noon over at Middle Bay Country Club in Oceanside. All the information on payment and everything will be up there if you want to join us to play golf. And then I'm also going to post something as far as the donation. If you want to donate towards the cause, we're accepting any donation, big or small, and we'll throw up your name up on one of the tee boxes as a nice donation. And it's not a donation to the podcast. It's all the proceeds are going to go towards the Live for Evan Foundation. So yeah, buddy of mine, the foundation was named after him, Live for Evan. He passed away when we were in college. And the real quick, the foundation, you can learn more about it on liveforevan.org. But it basically takes care of what the foundation has is a few properties around the area of Boston General Hospital, which is rated #1 in the country for children's or pediatric heart disease. So we don't take care of any of the medical bills, or they don't take care of any of the medical bills. But what they do is they have kind of like Airbnbs around the area that they rent or they host the families, hopefully for free. So what we do is we basically pay like a month's rent or a month's mortgage for one of the families with all the money that we make from the outing. So hopefully 2 years ago, we paid for 2 months mortgage, I believe. So hopefully this go around, we can hopefully double that and put up a family so their kid can or their child can get proper care on their heart disease. So if you want to check that out again, it's live for the number 4 Evan EVAN.org. So liveforevan.org. And if you want to donate, you can message me on Instagram and figure out how. So thank you very much if you do. And yeah, if you want to join us for golf, we'd love to have you as well.
Yeah, don't forget to give back. I mean, whenever little causes like this come up, you donate. I mean, it doesn't matter really how much you make. If you don't make a lot, you can give $5, $10. If
Anything
you make more,
counts for sure.
Yeah, you give more, you get more, you give more, right? So it's we understand if with inflation and whatnot, it's tough out there, but any donation helps, and it goes to a really good cause. So definitely inquire into that if you're philanthropic. How's that?
We should do
$5 word right there.
We should do like they do on Garden of Dreams. You could donate to win a chance to be on the podcast.
It's not a bad idea.
So, yeah, we'll offer them a dinner with Sam and Joe, and then
If you let's offer it right now. If you give us a $200 donation, we'll say $200. You get to join us for a segment of the show. You could join us on an awards episode this season coming up. Right? Join us for the awards, like the awards part, the end of the episode.
Yeah. All right.
So if anyone's interested in that and wants to donate $200 to Live for Evan, you have our word right now. You could join us for part of an episode coming up this season.
Wait, how many people are we limiting this to, though? What if like 20 people do it? We got 20
if 20 people do it. We'll worry about that. We'll do it.
Yeah.
We'll worry about that when it happens. That's a lot of money going to Live for Evan.
Just messing. Yeah, so definitely donate if you can. And if you go to the golf tournament, don't forget to order your gear with Shank It Golf.
Oh, yes. Good call. I forgot to mention that. Shank It Golf. Our promo code is EdPod over there also. They just came out with a bunch of new polos I saw. I'm going to have to check those out, possibly get myself another one. But yeah, they come out with a lot of new ones every now and again, and they always have a lot of sales. So whenever they have a sale, I try and post it up on Instagram. So check that out at shankitgolf.com, promo code EdPod.
What is that? /?
I don't know.
That's
Mike, hope maybe if you can click this on YouTube, I'm not really sure, but Mike threw that up there.
Coach, that's what it's called, a website. It's how the internet works. Those are signals to the internet of where to go.
Yeah.
What is the /reference ? That's a lot of shit going on.
Well,
just go to Shank It Golf. Go to shankitgolf.com and use promo code EdPod. You don't need to worry about the full link.
All right, that's easier. There you go.
But yeah, Oscar's coming to the outing, and Oscar's also donating a full jersey customization in one of the raffles. So we're gonna have a separate raffle just for that. So you're gonna have to buy a special raffle ticket for the jersey raffle, and obviously all proceeds are gonna go to the foundation as well, Live for Evan. And one of our frenemies, Sean from Hockey Night in New York, is also going to be joining us and donating from his podcast as well.
Yeah, I got some questions for Sean on some of these moves the Islanders made. I know
we're definitely going to have him on soon.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right, let's turn to the news. We got a lot of signings here. July 1st came, and the Rangers made I feel like it was like 6 signings in the first hour. I don't know, how that happened, but they were all
had
done.
Him loaded up.
Yeah, he knew who he wanted, and probably was speaking to them beforehand, and was able to lock in a bunch of guys on July 1st, another one on July 2nd, and then a couple of re-signs recently. So we're going to talk about that. Nobody was signed for over $825,000 average annual value. So the Rangers, we talked about it last episode. They didn't have a lot of cap space. There's not really a lot they can do. They're not going to go out and trade for an Alex DeBrincat or do anything like that. And they really just tried to fill the holes on their roster by, I don't want to say shopping in the bargain bin or the clearance section, but that's what they did. They were able to get a really good deal on Blake Wheeler, signed him to a 1-year deal for $800,000 with only a possibility of $300,000 in performance bonuses. Jonathan Quick, $825,000 to be the new backup, letting Yaro Halak hit the road. He's still an unrestricted free agent. Only $100,000 for Quick in performance bonuses, and that matters because if the Rangers end up at the end of the year without cap space, and those players hit those performance bonuses, then that cap will roll to next year, and it's limited to only $400K if they both perform really well and meet those bonuses. So good job by Durry on those 2 signings. They also signed a 4th-line center, Nick Bonino, 1 year, $800,000, well-traveled. Nick Bonino is a classy, player and a guy who's been around the league in a penalty-killing 4th-line role.
Are we going to talk about all these guys?
We're not. I'm just listing them out.
Talk about whoever you want. I'll cut you off right there. I love the way Nick Bonino plays. I always not admired his game necessarily, but his game always stood out to me, like on Pittsburgh when they were winning the cups and stuff. I mean, I know he's not going to be the same type of player then, but I think there's just that leadership and like obviously at a very cheap price. And I think he can still hold his own on the ice as well.
No, for sure. And, he's 35 years old now, right? So he knows his role. He wants to be on a contending team, and he wants to contribute in the way that he can at this point in his career. I mean, the guy.
He grew up in Connecticut also, so I think he was a Rangers fan.
Yeah, he was a second, third line center most of his career. He wasn't a fourth line center, but he's really developed into that towards the end of his career. He's good for about 10 goals.
He's a great fourth line center. If that's
kill
going to be his
penalties.
spot. Yeah.
Well, it's got to be a spot, right? You got Zibanejad, Hedel, and Trocheck. So
Well,
where else
barring
would
any
he play?
barring any injuries, I mean, hopefully he stays where he's supposed to stay.
Yeah, no, for sure. And while you stop me, we might as well get Coach's take on Bonino if he wants to give that, but also if you want to give your take on Jonathan Quick as the backup or Blake Wheeler, go for it.
I mean, I think the Jonathan Quick move is one of the key moves because if he goes down with any kind of an injury for 2 weeks to a month, it's going to be a bona fide NHL goalie. And God forbid it happens in the playoffs, you have an experienced goalie. So I think that's one of the best moves he made. I personally don't understand all these signings. For all these 800,000 signings, couldn't they have signed Tarasenko? I don't get it. Get all that up. I don't understand it. I don't get it.
So, Coach, I think that is partially just because you don't understand how the salary cap works. Not all these guys.
Did the episode when Coach was supposed to turn in his homework.
Not all these guys are going to count against the salary cap. So only players that are on the NHL roster will count against the cap, and a certain amount of a cap hit can actually just be completely buried in Hartford and not count against the cap. So, for example, a guy like Riley Nash, who they signed, he's 34. He obviously has to clear waivers. If he clears waivers and goes to Hartford, he counts 0 against the salary cap. So all these guys are coming in to battle for spots, and the ones who lose are going to hit waivers, and they're going to go to Hartford. So that's the difference, right? So it's not add them all up and they add up to Tarasenko. It's not that simple.
So then they're just basically signing for a chance to make the roster.
Well, I think certain guys are on the team,
players
right?
too.
Yeah, depth guys too, right? So guys like Blake Wheeler, Quick, and Bonino, I think are on the team. I think you sign those guys for specific holes on the roster. But the other guys like Pitlick, that we didn't get to yet, Riley Nash, Belzile, Gustafsson, Connor Mackey, these guys are battling for the 7th D, the 13th forward, the 12th forward. That's what they're doing. They're going to be in competition with some of the younger players on the team for those spots. And if they don't make it, they'll hit waivers and go to Hartford or get picked up by another team. But they'll be buried off the salary cap. Does that make sense, Coach? You look less confused, but still a little bit confused.
Well, I mean, I kind of thought we were going to talk about all the players. So, I mean, I think we'd be doing a disservice if we didn't talk about Blake Wheeler. I mean, I think that's a big name. But before we do that, what'd you say you saw? You saw what numbers are they wearing? Sponsor a little segment by Oscar because I think he's going to be making a lot of those jerseys this year.
So the 4 guys who I think will make the team, I figured let's take a look at what jersey numbers they'll wear so we can call it the new Ranger jersey numbers. And we'll sponsor it, sponsored by Oscar's Pro Stitch Hockey. So check out Oscar. He makes the best jerseys. If you're looking to pick up a Blake Wheeler Ranger jersey, you know where to go. You go to Oscar, he'll take care of you. So I saw Blake Wheeler is going to wear number 17. I like that number. I don't know why. I think it's a good number. I like 17. What are your thoughts on that, Coach?
That's fast, isn't it?
Jesse?
Used to have didn't Jesse wear 17? The cleaning lady took my Fox jersey down.
I don't remember if he wore 17 or 16 with the Rangers.
I thought he wore 17 because he wears 71 with Carolina.
Well, at least she didn't fold them.
Right. She stacked them all on my what do you call it? My bachelor thing.
She's like, these need to go to the dry cleaner. Foss wore 12, 19, and 17 with the Rangers.
He was 17 the last, definitely.
So 17 for Blake Wheeler. Jonathan Quick, 32. I don't know. I don't really like 32 for a goalie, but
I think isn't that his number everywhere? Wasn't that his number everywhere?
Yeah, no, of course your number's your number.
Well, he might have been 30 or 31. I don't remember what his number was in the Kings.
No, he was 32.
Okay.
I'm just not a huge fan of that number. And then Eric Gustafsson, he's won a few numbers, but recently in the last few years, he's won 56. I'm pretty sure that's available. And interesting,
Wait,
coach.
Wait,
Yeah.
56 is retired by the Giants, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Interesting for Nick Bonino. He's been wearing 13 for most of his career, and that's Alexis Lafreniere's number, right? So I mean, look, Benino's not going to be here a while. He could easily change his number. He's probably going to do a year and move on. I'm just curious, does Laffy make any kind of move with Benino? You don't think so?
No way. Not unless he gets a ton of money.
A ton of money.
Usually they buy him a watch or take him out to a nice dinner or something, but
Nick Bonino doesn't want to give. It's not like Messier coming over and you're giving up the number. I mean, no disrespect to Nick Bonino, but
I don't know.
But it's not the reason I say it is because that's not even Laffy's number. I mean, Laffy in juniors throughout his career, he's worn number 11. Obviously, he can't wear that with the Rangers. So it's not like he's attached to number 13. It's not like he's like, this is my number,
Well, maybe Laffy will change it. Start fresh.
Yeah, he might need to do that. For sure.
Maybe he could just reverse for 11.
Unbelievable.
Dad joke coming from Coach Ed.
So looking at Blake Wheeler, though, I want to look a little deeper at him. Obviously, he's a big signing. I mean, he's a former All-Star, former captain of the Winnipeg Jets. He's been around the game a long time, power forward, big body. We don't have Mike here to look up his height and weight, but I'm pretty sure it's heavy. 6'5", 225.
Wow.
Last year, 55 points in 72 games.
You're definitely going to talk about that a lot.
Yeah, 55 points in 72 games last year, so he could still make plays. He had 39 assists with the Jets. The last 4 years, he's been in somewhat of a decline, but he's still around 50, 60 points. Where do you think he's going to fit on this team? I mean, I think it's a good question. He comes in kind of like a mercenary, an older player, big, quote unquote, big name. Do you think the coach is going to put him in a top 6 role or a checking role, power play time? I'm just curious first of all, what would you do if you were the coach? And then also, I mean, how do you think the Rangers are going to use him? Because if he is in the top 6, somebody's got to be out of the top 6. One of Kakko, Laffy, Panarin, and Kreider are not going to be in the top 6 if Blake Wheeler is. So I'm just curious what you guys think.
Well, if that happens, you'll have a coronary.
Of what happens?
No? If they take Laffy or Kakko out of the top 6. I mean, can he fit in with Hedl on the third line?
For a 36-year-old player, yeah, I would be pretty upset by that. Yeah. It's not what I would do. I'm asking what you would do, and you're talking about what my reaction would be.
Well, I see him as a third line wing. I don't know if Hedl's the right center for it, but I don't think Hedl's the right center for many people. Wasn't he the captain? They took the captaincy away from him?
Yes. Do you know what happened with that?
I know that they took it away from him, but what happened?
So pretty much there was a lot of underachievement in Winnipeg. They had a lot of star players, Mark Scheifele, Nikolaj Ehlers, Patrick Laine, Blake Wheeler, right? All these guys. The list goes on. Kyle Connor, and they just didn't achieve anything. They couldn't get over the hump. That one year they went to the Western Conference Finals, but they couldn't get over the hump, and they wanted to change the culture. Blake Wheeler is also known to have a very outspoken personality. He doesn't beat around the bush. He'll fly off the handle at times, and that rubs people the wrong way. And I think they just wanted to change the culture there, so they stripped him of the captaincy to kind of change the tone in the locker room. Didn't really affect it much because last year, when the coach called out his players after they were eliminated in the first round, Blake Wheeler came out and said that the coach shouldn't have done that, and that he's surprised. He pretty much called out the coach and said that, stood up for the players. so he's known to create a little turmoil in the locker room with his personality. That's pretty much what happened, just to summarize it quickly. So, yes, he was a captain. He was stripped of that captaincy partially because of his, demeanor in the locker room and the underachievement of the team. But he was also Jacob Trouba's captain at one point. So
that's interesting. Yeah, I see him on the third line. Maybe if they move Trocheck to the third line, it'd be a nice winger for that. What are you shaking your head at? What's the matter?
no,
I see him taking the top 6 role.
No, I agree with you. I just love that you asked me what happened, and then I laid it all out, and your response was, "That's interesting," and then you just moved on to the next topic.
That's going to be an interesting dynamic to see how that plays out. I mean, is it going to cause turmoil in the locker room? It sounds like he calls out certain players. I think he just wants accountability as a captain or as a person or as a player. And unfortunately, we've talked about this more often than not. These youngsters coming in, they don't want the accountability. Everybody gets a trophy. They don't want to be put in a place. Everybody's got to be handled delicately. And, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. And how sounds like it's a guy Laviolette's going to like.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot happened between Wheeler and Patrick Laine that really caused issues. As you know, Patrick Laine wanted out of Winnipeg eventually. He's from the newer generation. Wheeler is from an older generation. So there was a little bit of a disconnect there between the two. I don't know much about it other than what I've read online. So I obviously don't know what actually happened, but I do know that before he signed with the Rangers, he texted Jacob Trouba and he asked him a few questions. He didn't say what they were. And then Trouba was like, "Why are you asking me this? Are you actually going to sign here?" And he was like, "I'm thinking about it." And Trouba was like, "Oh, awesome." So whatever it was, it wasn't enough to make Trouba and him be on a bad terms or anything like that. So little Ed,
Trouba's that same type of player.
Yeah, I could see Trouba and him not pointing fingers, but calling out certain players in certain situations. I mean, I like that. I mean, I dealt with that in my minuscule college career as captain. It was, you got to call guys out. They got to be accountable. They got to, you're an NHL player. You should be doing certain things. You shouldn't be skating around like you're at a public ice skating session. You have responsibility. You're even though you're only 20, you're a grown up and you should be maturing at a certain level. And I think it's good if they're going to call him out. Hopefully it works out. I didn't really know that about Blake Wheeler, but I'm all for it. As long as he does it in unison with, say, Trouba or the hierarchy on the Rangers.
Right.
Not causing turmoil.
In unison, I think won't be an issue, but if they butt heads, then
it sounds like he respects Trouba enough to talk to him. And if what you're saying is true, Trouba said, welcome aboard, then that's could be a good thing. We'll see.
Yeah, I think Wheeler's definitely looking for a fresh start somewhere. I think he's going to be excited to be a Ranger and get out of Winnipeg. I mean, just the way of life in Winnipeg versus probably in New York City, and playing for the Rangers is going to be completely different. And he probably has, like we just said, the same attitude as Trouba does, I think. So I don't think they're going to butt heads, and I think it's going to be good for a player like Panarin, hopefully, to get called out by a player like Blake Wheeler. So hopefully it kicks things into gear for players like him. And I mean, even like players like Zibanejad, who seem to disappear some games, and just consistency. And if you have a player like him, someone up front, I mean, especially Kreider too, can definitely learn a lot of things from Wheeler. So I think it's going to be a good thing all around, without a doubt.
I just think it's a little hard as an established player like a Chris Kreider or Mika Zibanejad, where you've been here a long time, you're a leader on the team, you wear a letter. Then a guy like Blake Wheeler comes in, if he starts telling them things in a certain way, I mean, these guys have egos. I once told somebody, they said to me, "Are you sure you're going to be able to work with this person?" In my job setting. And I said, "I don't know. It depends on them." And they said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, everybody, all of us have egos. So if that person has an ego, then it's going to be hard for us to work together, right?" So if Blake Wheeler can't understand that he's not a leader on this team, he's coming in as a veteran with experience, kind of like Kane was last year. right? He's not coming in to lead the Rangers. He's coming in to provide another example of, how to be a pro, etc. I think it'll be fine. But if he starts stepping on Kreider and Trouba and Zibanejad's toes, I don't think it's going to be good. That's just, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's not necessarily stepping on their toes. And if they turn their heads to something like that or criticism just because he quote unquote hasn't been part of the team for X amount of years, then I don't think that's the right thing on their part either. They have to. Everyone's got to learn from each other. And any Stanley Cup team, you hear what goes on in the locker room and stuff, and they can't start butting heads. And I don't know. I don't think they will. I think they kind of already, especially Kreider. I think he already put his ego to the side when they named Trouba captain. You know, so.
No, I'm not saying that will happen. I'm just saying it could happen. That's all.
There's a couple of things that I look at. There's a couple of things in this situation I'll look at. I'm not going to equate it in skill, but think about when A-Rod came over to the Yankees and Joe Torre had to be that big mediator and like kind of push him to the corner and say, Jeter's not moving, you're moving. So it's going to be a lot on Laviolette and the coaching staff to make sure that that piece is held and each guy has their place. I think Laviolette's got enough experience, so hopefully it works out. And the character he shows to me is they took the captaincy away. I don't remember a stir where he demanded to be traded or anything. He's been there, 3 years since?
Something like that. I'd have to look up the exact date of when that happened.
A lot of guys say, I want out of here. I mean, he was a little older at the time, obviously. He was in his early 30s, but he didn't have that character, that issue where he said, you know what, you take the captaincy away, I demand to be traded. Nothing like that I heard.
Yeah, I mean, like Cousinet said, he's still putting up 50, 60 points. So 3 years ago, he had every right or every opportunity probably to ask for a trade or get traded somewhere. And he decided to stick with it, try to become part of the solution anyway. And I think that's a good attitude, without a doubt.
Yeah, so the last thing on Wheeler and Trouba and their mutual respect for each other, I don't know if you guys saw this article, but it was in the Post a while back. So Wheeler recounted when he first respected Jacob Trouba. So it was in a regular season game. The Jets were losing the game. In between periods, Wheeler was just like ripping into the team about their performance. And then while he was ripping into the team, he wasn't calling anyone out, but just generally doing it. Trouba, like 20 years old, said, well, what about you? Right. In response to Wheeler, and like stood up for himself and the rest of the team, I guess. And, I think that could go one of two ways, right? It's like kind of, imagine if that was like if Kakko did that, like we'd be like, that's not a good move for Kakko. He's got to put his head down and like, learn from the veterans. But here, if it's Trouba, it's viewed as like a positive thing, But anyway, Wheeler said it in the sense that like, he kept him in check too. Like a captain still needs somebody to keep them on their toes too. It's not just like, listen to the captain. They know everything unless you're Mark Messier, I guess. But so I just thought that was an interesting anecdote. We'll see how it turns out. I don't think it's going to cause like disarray on the team because the reality is if it does, they can just send Wheeler down, release him, and his whole salary will be buried. So it's not like he doesn't have any leverage really to avoid that.
Yeah.
But I do agree with Coach. No, we're talking about Wheeler. I mean, I do agree with Coach that I see Wheeler in like a third line checking role. I like him on a third line with Trocheck and Kreider. I think that's an amazing checking line. And you give the kids more top six ice time. And then obviously Wheeler's going to be on the power play. And so is Kreider. So my only concern with that is it probably puts Panarin with Hedl. And I don't want to do that. I try to avoid that at all costs. So I don't know. I guess we'll see how it turns out. Little Ed, you didn't really chime in on that if you wanted to. Otherwise, I'll move on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really like Hedl with Panarin, so if we could avoid that, that'd be great. But it doesn't look like it's going to happen unless they keep Trocheck in the 2 spot. It's hard. I mean, the Rangers in a very unique situation as usual. I mean, it's hard to find the right spot for guys because I think in a good world, I would put Wheeler on Panarin's right wing and have him help him out checking wise and defensively a little bit, and kind of play a checking role with Panarin. And I don't know, Panarin might be able to feed him with a few goals, but you want to put the kids up on the top two lines, so it's hard. So to answer your question from before, if it was me, I would put Panarin with Wheeler on the second line. But I think what the Rangers have to do, and Trocheck, but that's that's just in a bubble, that's in a vacuum.
So then you're either putting Kreider, then either Kreider or Laffy on the third line, assuming Kakko is on the first line.
I'm just a big believer in the first and second line shouldn't be getting that much more ice time than the third line. So I don't see a problem with putting Laffy or Kakko on the third line if they're still just going to get an even amount of time as everybody else. But obviously that's not going to work realistically. But like we always say in the playoffs, successful teams have four lines that play almost even time. I mean, obviously not the fourth line and power play and blah blah blah, but you're running four lines almost consistently throughout the playoffs.
So then there's no problem putting Kreider or Wheeler on that line then, since they're going to play just as much as the other lines.
Then put Panarin on the third. Then put Panarin on the third line with Wheeler. Then if numbers don't matter, I just think Panarin and Wheeler, that those style of players will work well together.
It could.
Wheeler's going to dig in. Wheeler's going to dig in the corners. He's going to get the puck. He's going to forecheck. He's going to be more of an energetic player, and I like that style of player with Panarin. You can't put another skilled player with him; it's not going to work.
Yeah, Wheeler's going to create time and space for Panarin and allow Trocheck to be more of the back-checking player, where he's not going to have to dig the puck out of the corner as much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what that does.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because we don't really, obviously, it's hard for us to predict it because we have no idea how Laviolette's going to, how he's going to grade everybody and how training camp's going to go and stuff. So,
yeah, I think it probably starts with his first decision will be, where does Kreider play? Does Kreider play with Zibanejad again? Because that'll feed into the other decisions, right? Because then it's going to determine if Kreider's with Zibanejad and Kakko, then you need to put either Panarin or Laffy on right wing or on the third line, because those two guys are both left wing. So they either need to be on the same line, one of them goes to right wing, or one of them is a third liner. And I agree with you. They shouldn't get that much less ice time as a third line in today's NHL, but it's not the reality. The guys in the top six command the power play time. They play with better players. You want Laffy and Kakko to play with Zibby and play with Panarin. You don't want them to play with Hedel and Vesey. That's not.
If we're putting Laffy moving to the right wing as an option, I say put him on Panarin's right wing. We see Laffy digging into the corners anyway. I think it has to be a reality check for all you Ranger fans out there that Laffy's not going to be that 100-point guy, 60 goal scorer. He's going to be that he never really was that in juniors either. You spoke about that a lot too, right, cuz?
He's a playmaker.
He's a playmaker. We've obviously seen that he can hit. He can get angry. He can get mean below the goal line. That's where he excels too. So if he's willing to play the right wing, which I'm sure he is, he's willing to try anything at this point, I'm sure. I think that might be a good spot for him too, and hopefully Panarin can start setting him up.
Yeah,
so if that's also an option. I like him there. I like him there also because he might be hopefully more points than Wheeler ever had. I mean, that's the goal, right? But similar style of play, maybe.
Yeah. So I mean, look, he's not as big as Wheeler, so I get your point.
Right, of course.
I like Laffy.
Big boy though.
I don't mind Laffy with Panarin. Like you said, he forechecks really hard, Laffy. It's one of his best current traits in the NHL. But he also has a really good shot
right now, yeah.
He's got a really good shot, I mean, he shows it from time to time. He could shoot from circles, top of the circle in. He could be a sniper, and with Panarin feeding him pucks, it might be a recipe that works and gets him going, So maybe he turns into that.
Laffy's listed at 6'2", 193, so he's got some room to put on some muscle.
He does not look 6'2", 193. Where did he get? Who measured him?
That's that's on the Google page. Let me check the NHL official page.
That might be on
6'1", 195.
Wow. 6'1". Yeah, that
I think
sounds
he's
more.
big. He's bigger than we give him credit for. I think he's a little bit of a moose under there. So I mean, if you can get over the 200 plateau and be a physical player and put up the points, also, I think that should be his path. I mean, I think the superstar is come and gone unless he completely just something magical happens. I think he's going to be that like 60, 70 point player, hopefully, and the two-way player that we've seen.
Yeah, I don't think the superstar is come and gone. I think it could happen still. He's 21 years old, but it's getting close to, this is it for him, I think, if he doesn't figure it out soon.
Well, when I say superstar, I'm talking about I don't know. I mean, even a lot of these guys are playing two-way games. Even Austin Matthews is, but I'm talking about like the one-way guys. I guess the Panarins, the one-way 100-point players. I mean, he's gonna that point total is gonna go down a little bit because of his forechecking and his, I don't know, I guess defensive responsibilities and stuff like that.
Yeah, I hope it's still out there. I mean, I still think it's possible, but I hear you. It's unlikely at this point. So let's talk about Laffy quickly, more than we just have. He's unsigned still. The Rangers have about $3 million in cap space. I expect that to get done. There's a lot of chatter about an offer sheet. Probably not going to happen. A team would be stupid to offer sheet the Rangers because they'll just retaliate as soon as they have any cap space. And payback is it's real in the NHL, as we saw with Carolina and Montreal and the Jesperi Kotkaniemi situation. But I mean, is this really like a make or break year for the kid? Right? I mean, I've been reading online. A lot of fans have been saying he just looks like he doesn't care. He's lazy. He's gassed at the end of shifts. They saw there was like a picture posted on Twitter of him out at a party or something, and like he had like noodle arms like me, and like a flabby chest or whatever. And they're like, is this what he looks like? Like, isn't he training? Like these people don't. So a lot of Ranger fans are kind of saying that he doesn't have the drive to make it as a star, and that's why he won't. But I just think that's like crazy. I mean, the guy is, I'm not saying all NHL players have this like drive to be the best, like Nathan McKinnon. I'm not saying that, but he had a drive to get to be the first overall pick in the NHL draft. That you have to be committed to do that. You're working real hard. There's no chance. You're telling me he gets to the NHL and he's just like, oh, I'm happy to be here. Like
there's no way he's got that attitude.
There's no chance he has that attitude.
No way.
What I see is more so a kid who's scared to play the way he knows how to play because the coach doesn't want him to play that way. They want him to dump it in and forecheck and hit and doesn't want him to make any mistakes turning the puck over like Panarin does, and wants him to play a certain way, and he's not accustomed to it. So he's not, he's trying not to make mistakes. He's gripping his stick tight, whatever. I think that Laviolette's got to go to Laffy and just say, play the game that got you drafted number 1 overall, and then we'll work on it from there. If we'll tweak it. Go play that game. I want you to play that game. I'm not going to bench you. Play the game. As long as your effort is there, we'll tweak it and fit it into the system. That's how he's got to approach the kid, or he's not going to.
The players,
70-point guy.
The players that had that attitude that you're talking about, Elias Anderson and Vitaly Krasov. And there's a reason why they're not around anymore. No, I'm serious. Laffy could have had all this chit chatter, getting benched, putting on the third line, the fourth line. He could have demanded a trade. He could have done any. He could sign it. He could sign somewhere else right now, and he's not going to. He's going to stick with it and prove himself to the New York fans. He's not going to be a quitter.
Bust A and bust B. I still can't believe
this
the
year's
Rangers had 4 top 10 draft picks. You got me going. You mentioned these guys. It's your fault. It's not mine. 4 top 10 draft picks in 4 years, and they get Kravtsov and Anderson, who are no longer with the team and probably not NHL players. And Laffy and Kakko, 2 of the biggest, like, arguably on their way to being busts for their draft spots. Both NHL quality players, but not star players by any stretch. Unbelievable. I mean, you can't make it up. You really can't.
The only team you can compare it to is like the Oilers, but they got McDavid, Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins.
So you can't compare it to any.
Well, I'm saying like they hit on all their picks, but it's like the same.
Taylor Hall, they also
like
drafted
the number, whatever. But Nugent Hopkins was higher, right? He was like 3.
No, Nugent Hopkins was 1.
He was
Taylor
1?
Hall. He was first overall. Yeah.
Yeah.
Taylor Hall was first overall, and Draisaitl was what, third overall?
Second or
So-
third. McDavid was obviously one. And then who was the other player that they actually missed on that just went to like,
Yakupov.
Carolina? Yakupov. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
Jesse
so, I mean-
Puljujarvi.
And that guy too. So yeah, I mean they missed on some guys. Imagine being an Oilers fan and having those players and still not winning.
Oh, I feel bad not for Oilers fans with Connor McDavid and Leon
That's
Draisaitl.
insane. And
Feels really-
Draisaitl.
really bad.
And even Nugent Hopkins has finally turned the corner. I mean, you look at a player like Nugent Hopkins, who, I mean, yeah, he was always a good player, being selected number 1 overall, but he hasn't really come out of his shell until like recently.
Yeah,
He's been in the league for what, like 10 years at this point?
I know. No, it's true. It's
You know,
certainly
like
true.
it sucks. I mean, us New York fans, obviously, it's a bigger market. I mean, but Edmonton's a huge market too. And like they had Nugent Hopkins number 1 overall, and it took him 10 years to actually become somewhat of the player they expected. And still now
just
he has a
don't-
completely different role than a number 1 pick. You know, he has like a maybe 10 overall pick role. You know,
I just don't know what their plan is with the kids. I mean, Zach Jones resigns. We didn't talk about Gustafsson yet, but Zach Jones resigns. You figure, all right,
Are
he's
you
got the
saying-
60 spot. He needs
Are you
waivers.
saying that? Are you saying that name right? Gustafsson, isn't it Gustafsson?
I have no idea how to say his name. I'm not Sam
we'll
Rosen.
figure it out when Sam says it the first time.
We could say Gustafson though. I think that sounds more accurate, Coach. It's okay.
I'm trying to like picture them saying it on the ice or whatever.
It's probably Gustafson. I'm sure there's a
Where's he from?
hockey DB. Sure, hockey DB will tell me how to pronounce it. Hold on, I'll tell you right now.
Where's he from?
Sweden.
Then.
Yeah, it doesn't say. But anyway, I don't know. I'm sure that I'm saying it wrong. So whatever. Gustafson. He signs a 1-year deal, $825,000. He had 40 points last year, 43 with Washington. Played their power play. Played under Laviolette. So you got to think Laviolette's hired as the coach. The Rangers signed this guy. He played on their power play last year. That he's going to play, right? I mean, it's just like the coach wants him, right? The coach said, go get me this guy. And that means Zach Jones is not going to play again. So what is Zach Jones going to do? Is it going to be the 7th D? You can't waive him. Someone's going to pick him up. So he's going to be scratched. Well, God,
I think it's going to create some. No, it's going to create some competition. I don't think it's a guarantee that he's going to play. I mean, Jury
I
probably
think it's
asked.
a guarantee. The guy's 31 years old. He played for the head coach last year. The head coach switches teams. He follows the coach. He's playing. I mean, we could say it's a quote unquote competition, but the Rangers aren't going to put 5'8" Zach Jones with 0 NHL experience or 15 games that he has in over a guy who scored 40 points last year for this head coach.
No,
They're
I
not
agree
doing
with that, but I also don't think I don't think Gustafson's going to play 82 games either. So, and I don't
Maybe
really
not.
want Jones to play 82 games. So, I mean, if they can fill him in against certain teams, then it's fine. You give them a break here and there, and they switch it up.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out.
You know,
I
I
don't
mean,
know
or
if that's
then
the
Jones is dangling his trade bait. I mean, I'd rather be playing full time in Hartford, obviously, but you still got him as a little trade piece in case of emergency.
Yeah. I just think at some point when you're developing kids, you either got to play them in their role intended or move them before they get to a point like this where Jones is now going to get the Libor Hayek treatment. Is he just like Hayek barely played for like 2 years because the Rangers didn't want to lose him on waivers. They finally just non-tendered him this year, but they can't do that with Jones. If they're not going to keep Jones, they have to identify, is this a player that is going to be on our roster? And move, if not, just move him before he has no value. I mean, we'll see. And they're doing the same thing with the forwards, right? Play these kids. Anyway, enough of my high horse here. I got to get off the high horse every once in a while. So Keandre Miller, 2-year deal, bridge deal, 3.872 AAV. Coach, your thoughts on Miller on a 2-year deal?
I mean, it's what do you get? 3.7, you said?
3.87.
That's a lot of money, but he's coming into his own, I think. I think it's would have been nice to lock him in at like 4 years, but obviously a smart move on his agent's part, because if he keeps progressing like this, he's going to be getting that big time contract in a few years.
Yeah, I think the 4-year range is actually like the amount of time he wouldn't get, because that would just take him right to his first year of unrestricted free agency. So this is at this point in his career, you want him on either 2 years or like 6. Like you don't want a 4-year deal or something like that, because you're going to pay more and he walks right into unrestricted free agency at the youngest age. So I think if you can't sign him to like a 6-year deal, 7 or 8-year deal, then 2 years makes sense. Little Ed, your thoughts on Miller?
Yeah, I think it's kind of just kicking the pail down the road. Hopefully the salary cap goes up a little bit and they're able to keep him around for the next contract. But yeah, I think that being said, I think it's dangerous. I think hopefully we get the highest possible value out of him at the low number, because like Coach just said, he's definitely progressing. I mean, he definitely has his games where it's kind of like, what the hell is this kid doing? But he's still learning. Obviously, there's obviously way more good games than there are bad, so he's obviously on the right path. And hopefully, with the bigger number, the bigger salary, he's going to get more respect and some more power play time and things like that. And I think they could have just given him 3 even, and that's another 8.75 that you could have put towards Tarasenko.
Well, I think the way it works in hockey with agents is comparables. The agents go to the team and say, Bowen Byram got 2 years, 3.85. They have the same stats. They're the same draft class, same age, play the same position. That's what Miller gets, and it's just the market. It's how it works. I agree. It'd be nice if it was like, take less, give me less money, so we can keep that person. I wouldn't do that at my job. Hell no.
I was just
wouldn't
making
say,
a joke
pay me less.
Because the 8.75, he kept on saying, like, why are we signing another guy?
Oh, yeah. Why don't we just not sign any of these guys? Just sign Tarasenko.
Think about Keandre. Started playing defense at a late age. Think about the athleticism of him.
Yeah.
Being able to come into the NHL, playing against stars. He doesn't play against third and fourth liners all the time.
From the get-go.
And holding his own and playing above an average of the NHL, in my opinion.
Yeah, you could always put him on Panarin's wing too.
He reminds me a lot of Victor Hedman, and I know that's high praise because Hedman's probably bound for the Hall of Fame.
It took him a while to get it figured out too, though. Hedman wasn't Hedman right off the bat.
The big, good skater, good with the puck on his stick. Just raw player. And then all of a sudden at like 24, 25, Hedman just became this monster two-way defenseman. And Miller's on his way to that. He's got all the raw talent to do that.
I want him to get more play. He's got to get more power play.
Well, it's going to be Gustafsson.
There's only so much power play time.
No, it's going to be Gustafsson. It should be Fox and Keandre back to back. And then
it's not going to be.
That's insane.
Or last year was Trouba over Miller.
I know. I mean, I like Trouba's shot also, but Keandre is a better playmaker in general. Better things happen to Keandre.
He should absolutely be on the power play.
He picks the spots with the shot. He's kind of like Fox with that. He's able to put his wrist shot wherever he wants.
And he's also fast enough to get back if he makes a mistake. Yeah, that's the other Trouba. When Trouba shoots it right into the shin pads of Nico Hischier.
Yeah, him and Fox skating sand.
Yeah, there's no chance. A clear breakaway. There's not even a Ranger on the television screen. At least Miller would get back. Anyway, so yeah, I'm happy with the move. It's just all they could really do with the money that they had. So we'll see how that plays out.
With our preseason episode, we each got to submit a lineup with 2 power play units, 2 penalty kill units.
I think it's 3 penalty kill units, though. 3 forward units, right?
3 forwards. We can do that, whatever, yeah.
Yeah, 3 forwards and 2 D units.
Is Shawnee listening to our off-season episode? I
was just making it a little quicker. He does here and there. He said I wouldn't count on every single one.
I can't imagine.
In fairness, I don't listen to his either. So
I don't watch the Islanders enough, but I don't see any Islander defenseman that's close to Keandre Miller.
Not even close.
I watched some games on TV, not all. And I can't watch a full game, but I'll watch the game. They boast about Mayfair. They boast about Dobson. They boast about Bullock, this guy. I don't see a guy close to his ability.
It's not even a question.
Well, Pellick is pretty good. Mayfield's trash. And Dobson is more of an offensive guy. He's not.
But I don't see the skating ability, the ability of DeAndre.
No, but who has that? Yeah, but that's not fair to the Islanders. Look, I'm not one to defend the Islanders. But there's very few teams that have a defenseman like Keandre Miller. There's very few teams. Probably 5 to 10. As far as talent, right? I can think of a handful.
Build.
Jacob Slavin, maybe, in Carolina.
No.
Well, the speed.
He skates like Keandre?
Yeah, he's a really good skater. I mean, it's hard because they'll have some of his talent, but not all the whole package. I mean, he's got the size, the reach, the speed, the puck skills. Like, it's hard. That's a small list, But anyway, they'll lock him up when they need to, and hopefully it doesn't break the bank. But all right, before we go on to happy trails and talk about a couple guys who have left the organization, I wanted to talk about two that have not exactly left yet. Vladimir Tarasenko and Patrick Kane. Rangers off trade deadline additions, both still unrestricted free agents. So we get a text from Little Ed like 2 weeks ago. Tarasenko to Carolina. I said, what? I went on Twitter, looked like it was a done deal. Next thing I know, he fires his agent, hires a new agent, and he's still an unrestricted free agent with no contract. I'm not really sure what's going on with Tarasenko, but Larry Brooks reported he wanted to return to the Rangers. There is no money for him to return to the Rangers, so I don't know how that could be the case. But Patrick Kane gets his hip resurface surgery, which I have no idea what that means. Maybe you can ask EA the PA if she could. I have no idea what that surgery is, but it sounds horrible. And he's expected to be out for a portion of the season. He is not signed with anybody. I mean, are we going to see either one of these guys back with the Rangers? Why are they still unsigned? Just give your 2 cents, Little Led.
Yeah, I'll go first because I'm sure Coach is going to have a lot to say about Tarasenko. I mean, I was actually driving today, so I was hoping we were going to talk about this. I just have a weird feeling that they're going to be able to figure something out with Tarasenko. I don't know why. I mean, obviously, Goudreau's still on the table as being a trade piece. I mean, I don't know how it's going to work. I mean, you say there's no money. I don't really see how it's going to work, but I just have a weird feeling. As far as Kane goes, he posted a video, or Bauer posted him a video of him stick handling already with no skates on, just like in the weight room or whatever. And he was wearing red, white, and blue gloves. So that's all I'll say.
Well, he is American.
It's true, but it was Rangers gloves.
Team
USA gloves are navy blue. It was definitely Rangers gloves.
Coach, I'll hear you before I talk about this.
Oh, okay. You ready? I'll tell you. I'll say what I said 2 or 3 weeks ago. Trade Hedel. You got all this young talent. You got Hoffman. Trade Hedel and give Tarasenko. Work towards Tarasenko being on the team. I don't see anybody that fits with Hedel. I know you love him, and I'm not saying it to troll you. I don't see he's playing on the second line. He can't play with Panarin. Panarin will just be lost because Hedel's all over the place. I don't see the role. So if he's that up and coming, I'd rather trade him than Laffy and Kakko. Let them develop a little more, less salary, and keep Tarasenko. That's how I look at it.
Okay. Yeah, and what about Patty Kane?
I don't know how they would do that unless he holds out to, like we talked about, towards the end of the season, and somehow they could pull some strings and figure it out. At that point, I don't know. You don't know about injuries. Obviously, correct me if I'm wrong. If a guy gets injured, that money doesn't go to the cap, right?
Well, it doesn't. You can go over the cap, but you won't be able to bank any deadline cap space. And then once you activate that player from the injured reserve, and this is only for long-term injured reserve, once you activate that player, you do need to be cap compliant. So it's not like they can spend up to the cap, sign Kane, go over the cap, and then activate him later on for less than his cap hit. It's just not how it works. So I
No,
think
no,
the
I'm
only
saying
real
no. What I'm saying is, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but say a player on the Rangers, I don't want to even name a name and jinx anybody, but goes down with a season-ending injury, and he's making $4 million a year. Does that money become available to sign Kane?
And he's making 4.25.
yes.
He spits
it
out
could.
Heel's exact number.
Yes, if somebody gets injured for the season and goes on long-term injury reserve, by placing them on long-term injury reserve, you enable your team to go over the salary cap, the amount of their salary. So the Rangers would be able to go 4 and change over the cap. Presumably, under your hypothetical, that player can't return to the team, right? Because they're injured, some kind of serious injury. So
Yeah.
there wouldn't be a concern then, and they'd be able to do it.
I don't really wish that on anybody on a serious note, but I'm just asking that question.
No. So yeah, it's an important question. I think it's complicated, so it's a good question. But I think with Kane, there's a chance that he doesn't sign until he's healthy and he picks his spot. I think he might let the season play out a little bit, see where all the teams are, see what teams are interested in him around December, January, and then sign a really cheap 1-year deal wherever he wants to go to make a push for the cup, and then try free agency again next year when he's healthy.
I wouldn't be
think,
surprised if he does the Buffalo thing.
yeah, he
That's
might
an
go to
up and
Buffalo.
That's an up and coming team. They were at the bubble last year in the playoffs, and
Yeah, they
They
added
made a
some
few
big
moves, too.
defensemen. Yeah.
I think they're gonna make
No,
the
I-
playoffs this year.
I
Save
think-
that for
so
another episode.
I think that there is a really good chance that Kane ends up signing with the Rangers, particularly that when I look at their top 9 now, I see Goudreau or VC in it, because I don't really think Othman or Cooley are going to make the team out of camp. So I think there's a chance Kane slides into one of those spots come January, February. It's an easy move to make. It costs only money. Rangers don't have to trade any picks or players at the deadline like they do every year. They're running out of it, honestly. I think there's a chance. Tarasenko, I don't see it happening. I think in order to trade Barclay Goodrow, the Rangers are going to have to attach an asset of significance. And I don't think Durry wants to do that, or I think he would have done it already, because I think he probably tried to trade him. So then that only leaves a guy like Hedl, or, moving Kakko isn't going to be enough. You can't move Kreider. You can't move Trocheck. Obviously, you can't move Zibby or Panarin or Trouba. So the only guys left to move are like Lindgren or Hedl, and they're not going to move Lindgren. So, yeah, they could theoretically do what Coach said, trade Hedl. He doesn't have any trade protection, and it would free up $4.4 million. But, even though, Coach, you don't like them, I think the Rangers do like Hedl. He's, again, a homegrown player. They've developed him for 5 seasons. They locked him into a very reasonable deal. If he breaks out, that contract's a steal. I don't see them just dumping Hedl to get 1 year of Tarasenko at 31 years old, coming off an 18-goal season. It's not a good move. It's not a good bet, so to speak.
31 years old is not old for a guy like Tarasenko.
It is in this NHL. It's getting old. You're on the decline at 31 years old. You're on the decline.
Russian machine don't break.
Really?
That's true. It's true.
I
mean,
know,
once
but
you
seriously,
hit 31, 32, you start going like this.
I know, but the shape that he's in, I think Coach has a good point in that aspect. And then, like he also said, you have a player like Othman that's chomping at the bit to break into the league. It's a tough decision.
Yeah, but so a player like Othman, I don't understand that. If you trade Hedl and sign Tarasenko, you're swapping Hedl for Tarasenko. So there's no place for Othman to break in anyway. It's not like you're trading Hedl to let Othman break in.
Eventually, we're going to need
Hedl with Tarasenko.
Eventually, we're going to need like a top 2 or 3 center spot for Othman, no?
Othman's a winger.
Oh, he's
Othman's
a
a winger.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah. So you trade Hedl.
Why did I think he was a center? Who am I thinking of?
Who's your third line center? I don't know. All our prospects are wingers.
I thought they had a center. No,
we have McConnell Barker, and Edstrom are our center prospects.
And they drafted a bunch of guys, right? 2 centers,
Perot.
2 big centers.
Yeah, they're not ready for next year.
I know not
college.
next year, but you got to think long term. What Drury's thinking.
I don't think there's
All
any
these
chance.
guys, all these
Any
guys they signed for 800,000. None of them are centers.
Nick Bonino is the center.
All right, so there's your third line center. Goodrow's the fourth line center. Trocheck's the second line center. There's your answer. What's the problem?
That's terrible.
Why is that terrible?
It's significantly, your team is significantly worse and weak down the middle. Much weaker. Significantly.
I disagree with you.
I know you do. We don't have to agree. But I don't
disagree with
think,
I don't see
regardless
him
of
being
what
a
we
strength
think,
down the center.
regardless of what we think
We'll see.
individually on this podcast, I don't see any way they're trading Hedl this offseason. I don't see any way that's happening. They're just not going to do it. They just signed him. Again, they've invested 5 years into him. I don't see it. And he's on the verge of becoming a 30-goal scorer.
Ed, call
on the
Oscar up. Send Oscar a message to get Eddie a Hedl jersey.
I don't believe in that curse anymore, so you can go for it.
All right, then get it. Get it.
I don't believe in it because I got a Hedl cookie in the mail from Suter Sweet Treats, and that day he signed a 4-year contract extension.
But didn't it break?
So, yeah, but he signed the extension. So
And how did his playoff go?
Well, how did the entire team's playoff go? Except Igor's. So we're going to single out the 23-year-old third-line center on the team. That's who we're pointing to for the playoff.
Well, my opinion is that's the move
Coach,
they got to make.
You get only 3 minutes per episode to troll me about Hedl, and you've wasted the entire 3 minutes in this episode so far. So we have to move on.
One sequence.
All right, so happy trails to a couple Rangers. And on their way out, I hope they stop over at Sorrento's in Long Beach, pick up a slice or what do they got there? You said a butcher shop, Ed?
They got a butcher shop. They got an espresso and pastry shop now. They're expanding. They got everything. All the Italian treats, the Italian-American treats, I should say.
Yeah, so all these guys.
Just make sure you get there before 7 o'clock.
All these guys, what?
They shut down at 7 o'clock. Everything. So get there early, right after the beach or whatever you got to do, and get it on the way out.
Yep.
All these guys are gonna miss their New York pizza and New York, whatever. They're gonna stop in at Sorrento's on the way out, like Nico Mikkola. He's gonna stop in before he goes down to Miami. Signed a 3-year, $2.5 million per year contract. On his way out, he'll stop for a slice. Tim Gettinger signed with Detroit. Remember Tim Gettinger, Coach? Do you know who that is?
Yeah.
Coach knows who he is. Ryan Carpenter signed last year. It was Gallant's boy. Didn't really stick. He left to San Jose. And then William Lockwood, who is a return on the Vitaly Kravtsov trade, also went to the Panthers. And we also lost a Hartford defenseman, Wyatt Kalanick. So happy trails, mostly to Nico Mikkola and the rest of the gang there. All right, well, you're going to say something?
No, I was just agreeing with you. Happy trails.
Oh, I thought I cut you off.
Nah.
All right, well, we'll see. There's not much left to do. We'll see what Laffy's number comes in at. And we'll see, training camp's got to start, in August? When do they start training camp? I don't know. Is that football? I can't even think anymore.
Training camp usually starts
September. All right, so we'll see.
Second week of September.
We'll see. Hopefully, these young guys come in with a hard offseason. We'll leave it on this note before we end the episode. We talked about this, Coach, previously about how these players, Rafi Kakko, Hedl, all these young guys, how when they came into the league, they had a different experience because of COVID, right? They didn't have the same experience as other young players in the past. And the Rangers have also been trying to compete. So, they went to the Eastern Conference Finals. They get a short off season. They can't go to gyms the same way because of COVID, yada, yada, yada. This offseason, the Rangers lost in the first round, and they have had an entire summer to prepare for training camp. So I don't know about you, Coach, but I am looking forward to seeing the work that Kako, Laffy, and Heedle, and Miller, and Jones, and all these guys have put in. And I'm hoping a couple of them took big steps. So I'm looking forward to that.
I mean, you do hope that. You hope that the new coach coming in, they're looking to impress and show their work ethic. So you would think that that's what they're doing, because they're not all fully established in the NHL. They're all, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Laffy and Kako both showed a physical improvement, not on the ice, off the ice last year. So, they're young men, like you said before. They're only 21. It's, their bodies are still coming into their own.
Yeah, they're all still young. I mean, 23, 22, 21. Even
I mean,
Fox
I look at
is what, 25?
Yeah, I literally watched the draft pretty intently, more so than I have in the past. And none of these kids are coming in, these muscle-bound guys. There was one or two guys that were,
You see the size of Bedard?
Yeah,
And
he's not.
No, the number 1 overall pick, Connor Bedard. He's
not big.
He's pretty big. He's pretty big. I'll send you a picture of him.
He's not busting out of his suit jacket though.
Okay.
All right. Well,
pretty big. Like what? Working out, like strong.
Yeah. Look at his. If you look him up, I'll send you a picture.
He's only 5'10".
You make a good point. Take him out of the picture. He's a freak. Everybody else, no, you're 100% right.
He's listed 185. So that's pretty big for 5'10", I think.
He's a big boy. He's got some tree trunks, and he's got a pretty good build on him.
Yeah, they did say a lot of these kids are strong on the lower half. But
you take him out of the picture, like I said, he's a freak, but all the other guys are small, without a doubt.
It's not just small, but like you just look at their faces, they're like pimply and like they look so young, dude. The kids are young, man. I know they've been training and grooming for this, and they've been coached to be at this spot for years, and it's been on their mind and whatever. But they're just kids. They're literally just kids, It's 18 years old. 18 years old, So now you look at Laffy. Yeah, he's 21. He's maturing, but he's not matured yet. He's not fully matured. There's no way. He's going to get bigger and stronger and better. I'm hoping he's put the work in, and we'll see. I'm looking forward to training camp. I'm looking forward to that final D-spot battle, too. I know Coach is going to advocate for Ben Harper, but he might be on his way out, Coach.
I'm not going to advocate. I liked the way he played. I thought he stood up for his team. I thought he did a good job. But
I forgot about Harper.
If Gustafsson is a sixth defenseman, it sounds like that's going to be a better move at that price.
Yeah, we'll see. I have a feeling he'll clear and get to Hartford. Don't worry. But anyway, all right, boys. We'll see what else they do. I don't think there's much else to do with this roster, but we'll make sure throughout the summer that we bring you guys content. We're lining up a couple of interviews. So, we've been poking around. We got some good things coming on down the road. Little Ed's rubbing on his tattoo cream from Mad Rabbit. If you can hear that noise, that's the shimmer of the tattoo.
Sandpaper.
By the way,
he was sanding a table.
The beaches in Jacksonville got rid of all my calluses.
Nice. Gotta love it.
But yeah, we'll bring you guys some interviews. We might do the rivalry tour again. We got some ideas coming on down the road, so make sure you listen. We'll try and pop in as much as we can with news updates. Happy to catch you up with what the Rangers have been doing. Next episode, we'll catch you up a little bit around the league. Talk about what other teams are doing, particularly in the Rangers division and in the conference. And so we got a lot coming your way.
Yeah, looking forward to it, and definitely got our rivalry tour. Going to start scheduling that. I think you mentioned that, and like you said, Mad Rabbit Tattoo Aid. If you're getting a tattoo anytime soon, head over to them. Use promo code EDPOD for aftercare, before care, all the cares, all the aids.
I was thinking of getting a tattoo. This clinches it.
This is it. All right.
just so I could use.
I
the,
can't imagine
tattoo.
Coach Ed getting a tattoo. When I got a tattoo at 18, Coach Ed made fun of me for that. I just want to bring that out. So you getting one at 60 is quite
The achievement.
quite a flip the script there.
The cousin Ed flop coming full circle.
The cousin Ed flop on tattoos.
Well, this could
Next
be
thing
my
you know,
last hurrah.
Get a
If I don't
piercing.
get it now, that's it. My
November
skin's-
November 28th, my birthday. We got him. We could squeeze you in.
So put it in.
It's funny you
put it
say
down.
my sister wanted to get squeezed in too, and I was like, I don't think that's gonna happen. I was like, Eddie booked it. The guy's busy. And
Well, I don't
that's,
know if we'll
squeeze
talk.
everyone
But
in.
Mike might not be able to do it, but he's got like 3 or 4 guys working in his shop, so I'm sure I could book one of them in advance.
See
Yeah,
what
we'll
they
figure it
say.
out.
Yeah, find out, because if they both want to do it, that would be fun. The 4 of us can go. But anyway.
Sounds good.
All
to
right.
me.
Oh yeah, don't forget our favorite sponsor, Bella Italia.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Coach, you talked
Coach?
about
Bella
Eagle for 3
Italia.
minutes, and you didn't mention once that he had stone hands to spark in my mind to talk about Bella Italia.
Yeah, hands of stone.
Maybe all the kids need to come down to Long Island and work for Bella for a weekend to strengthen their forearms and their grip strength and all that good stuff.
Poppy O'Neill grabbing the stone and raising it up and down.
Oh,
Work the
that's
forearms.
Like Mr. Miyagi.
That's it.
Yep.
That's hilarious. So thanks to them. Thanks to all our sponsors and partners. And thanks to you guys for listening. We will see y'all next week.
Hopefully,
And,
Tarasenko's the topic of discussion.
we'll take it from there. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Looking forward to our content coming up, everybody. Love you guys.
Love you guys.
Good night, boys.
Good night.